Hey guys, welcome to the Real World Prepper. I wanted to talk today about an EMP attack. The threat is real. We're going to look at some excerpts from a video interview. It's actually from the Mark Levin show where Peter Pry is his guest, and Mr. Levin asks him lots of questions about EMPs, and this guy is a foremost expert. A little bit about Mr. Pry. He is currently on the U.S. Task Force for EMP Research and Watch. He's the executive director of this task force. He is the foremost expert, many written books and texts on the subject by this man, Peter Pry, P-R-Y. He works with the national and federal government, Homeland Security. He was the director of U.S. Nuclear and Advisory Board to Congress on Weapons of Mass Destruction. He was an intelligence officer for the CIA, including EMP threats. Now, the thing about EMPs, and the reason why I want to talk about these things, is, of course, as you all know, an EMP can be from the sun, which is out that way. If we had a major sunstorm flare-up or something like that, I want to say something happened in the 1800s, and of course there wasn't a whole lot of electricity to go down, but if it were to happen today, it would shut things down. It would fry everything electrical. Certainly that's plugged up. It would fry your vehicles, all your modern vehicles, anything from about, certainly anything from 2009, but probably most things from probably 1980 and up. Just to let you know, there's lots of different threats for EMPs. You've got North Korea is rumored to be creating an EMP type weapon. Russia also China is on that short list. They're all said to be developing EMP weapons. Not to mention the United States of America, the good old USA. Certainly we also are not behind the curve in this EMP weaponry. If something was deployed like this on purpose, certainly by a foreign government, it would be to bring us down. But if even the U.S. decided to do it, that would be one hell of a way to create a false flag, to usher in the mass depopulation agenda that frankly is part of what the one world government wants, a depopulation of the world by 80% or so, I've read. There's lots of different source materials on this if you want to look at this stuff. Our power grid is so antiquated that it would likely not recover. If this went on weeks, months, it could go on even years. And if it made it to the 1 year mark, most experts, including Peter Pry, say that up to 90% of people would die. You know, so EMP is a pretty serious matter. So I'd like for you to check this video out. Tell me what you think. Thanks for joining us on the Real World Prepper. If you like the content that you see here, please click that subscribe button. I appreciate it very, very much. Thanks to all my subscribers. And like, share, subscribe if you're watching and not already subscribed. And here we go.
Holding around number 30 Broad Street, 1022.
An electromagnetic pulse is basically a super energetic radio wave. It's got so much power that it can destroy electronics across a huge area. In fact, across the entire world in the case of a superstorm, a solar superstorm. The EMP can be made by nature, by the sun, by a solar superstorm, or it can be made by man by a nuclear weapon. And it can be made by non-nuclear weapons as well.
Can you describe what the electrical grid looks like in this country and who runs the electrical grid in this country?
Sure. We have 3,000 different utilities that run the electric grid, which is privately owned. It's not run by the government. It's run by private
So these are companies or regional companies that all work with each other?
Yes, that's right. And we have our North American grid is divided into three parts: an eastern grid, a western grid, and a Texas grid. And Canada is part of our grid. Canada is on the same part of our grid. It's part of the eastern and western grid. So it's not just the U.S. grid. It includes Canada. And they're all wired together except for Texas, which has got its own independent.
Why is that, by the way?
Texas grid.
Just came about that way?
It just pretty much came about that way. There are regional entities that manage and try to coordinate these various grids. And Texas decided, decades ago that they wanted to be on their own.
Electromagnetic pulse.
Yes.
Is that what electricity does as it moves? What does that mean exactly?
Well, think of it this way. I think everybody has had the experience of driving down a highway with your radio on, and then you pass under a high power line and you lose the radio. Then you come back out on the other side. That's basically all an EMP is. It's an electromagnetic field, all right? Except it's much more powerful than the field that you experience on the highway. Now imagine there's so much energy in that field that when you go through it, all the electronics in your car are destroyed. Now imagine that field is not just localized to a small spot on the highway, but it covers all of North America, and it would destroy electronics across that entire area. That's what could be accomplished if you had a single nuclear weapon and detonated it above the atmosphere, say at 300 kilometers or so, up in outer space. Mm-hmm. Mind you, this is a different kind of nuclear attack than the one people are used to thinking about. It wouldn't destroy a city. There'd be no fallout. There'd be no blast effects. If you were standing on the ground directly beneath the explosion and it was detonating overhead at 300 kilometers, or it could be as low as 30 kilometers, it's in the vacuum of space, so that you wouldn't even hear the explosion. There'd be no blast effects that would reach the ground. There'd be no radioactive fallout. Unfortunately, like so many things, we don't make fundamental elements of the electric grid in this country anymore. The transformers aren't manufactured in the United States anymore. We have to import them from South Korea or Germany. And if these transformers were destroyed, it would basically end us as a civilization. They cannot be mass-produced. Each one has to be made individually by hand. The global production...
You said there's thousands of them.
2,000 of them, 2,000. Yes. 2,000 of them.
Do we have an inventory of them, backup sources for them within our own country?
We have a small number of replacement transformers, less than 1% in reserve. And in part, that's because it's so difficult to replace them. They weigh so much and they're so big. There's only 3 railway cars in the whole country that can move an EHV transformer. Bridges have to be reinforced, roads have to be widened, and that's assuming that the society is intact and you haven't lost other parts of the infrastructure, as would be the case in the aftermath of a catastrophic EMP. That's why it's not just the way to think of these dangerous blackouts that we're talking about. They're not temporary blackouts. When you lose EHV transformers and the control systems, another piece of technology that is fundamental to our civilization is called the SCADA, for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. It's a control system that also runs everything. Both of these things are vulnerable to EMP, and if you lose them, that's it for us.
From time to time in our country, we read of a state or a city that's without electricity for a few days.
Yes.
Things like that happen, and then they're able to put it back together in a relatively short period of time, but you can see even right there, 3, 4, 5 days, there's really a panic in place and so forth. And what you're saying is, imagine this nationwide.
Right. In fact, there's only a 30-day food supply in the country to feed 320 million people. And water would stop immediately. You know, when you turn on the tap, it requires millions of volts in order to deliver that water through your tap. And the commission couldn't figure out how would we keep 320 million people alive with no food and no water, possibly for years. We estimate that if we had a blackout in this country that lasted 1 year, and that's entirely possible in these scenarios that we're talking about, we could lose up to 90% of our population to starvation, disease, and societal collapse. In the case of a nuclear EMP attack, your car, could be fried, airplanes would fall out of the sky. Nuclear reactors would go Fukushima. We've got 100 nuclear reactors in this country.
An EMP, or electromagnetic pulse. As Mr. Pry pointed out, it's either from the sun or a burst of radiation when a nuclear weapon is detonated above the Earth. Usually the blast wouldn't be felt on Earth, but the electromagnetic fields would still reach the surface. The aim, if nefarious, would of course be to knock out power in much of the U.S., and the outages could last for months, affecting hospitals, emergency services, food and water, just to name a few. The FBI, DHS, and Homeland Security all have cyber threat issues for sectors such as nuclear, energy, aviation, water, and critical manufacturing, to name a few. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that was an eye-opening account. I hope you guys got something out of that. More than anything, what I want you to get out of that is the message of preparedness. This is the real world prepper, and in the real world, we've got to be prepared for all types of things and scenarios. Now, life would be hard after an EMP, no question about it. Nearly impossible. If they estimate up to 90% of the population would die within a year or less, that is all the more reason why we need to prepare, put things up, have a plan, be able to survive and thrive, build a community. Just take care of all these things now while you still can, guys, okay? Thanks for joining. Come back and see me next time.